Welcome back to What's the 411 News, where we bring you news observation, interpretation, and news commentary from an FBA and BGR perspective. Let's get it. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to What's the 411 News. And we have a report today in regards to a Black-owned children's bookstore. You guys see it on the screen right now. Black-owned children's bookstore closed its doors due to threats. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to What's the 411 News. And you guys seen it right. Black-owned bookstore closed its doors due to having threats being made. All right. And we're going to get into the details of this. All right. And first, we're going to start off by checking this video, so you guys check this out.
Children's bookstore in downtown Raleigh says her shop and family have been targeted by threats, and she's closing the doors. Liberation Station opened on Fayetteville Street with this celebration on Juneteenth, less than a year ago. It was the first Black-owned children's bookstore in the Triangle. WRL's Matt Tallhelm is live in downtown Raleigh with the owner's message for the community. Matt?
Yeah, Deborah, that family-owned shop is up on the second floor here at 208 Fayetteville Street. This is an old department store space here. The owner is also an author, and she wrote this message on social media saying death threats, hate mail, a lack of safety are forcing her to close this shop.
Behind the door of Suite 201,
we have Gordon Parks, Langston Hughes.
A curated collection of literature lines the shelves, telling the stories of Black children and families.
It's not just a bookstore, it's a movement.
Victoria Scott Miller opened Liberation Station in downtown Raleigh last June after 4 years of pop-up book sales from the trunk of the family's car.
Our 2011 Chevy Cruze, going from place to place.
A vibrant mural covers the wall leading to the store. Inside, it's a cozy, welcoming space for the children who visit here. Have a seat, breathe. You are home, reads a message on a bench.
This is a community space. It's a communal, sacred space.
Scott Miller says that peace turned upside down in September.
We began receiving threats online and also through the phone.
She says at first they brushed off the threats and didn't report them to police.
We didn't deserve to have to say, oh, here's another problem, another issue that's intruding on the space that you deserve. And so we sat with it as a family and we said, well, what do we do?
Scott Miller describes the threats as sickening, targeting her store and family.
I think it is the power and presence of seeing a Black family unit doing this work. And I think that that's the threat.
She says it's become exhausting and unsafe to the point that Liberation Station will soon become another vacant space on a street the city's trying to revitalize.
How are you revitalizing a city if you're forgetting the people that matter, that are marginalized?
That's a question for a community to unpack as Scott Miller prepares to move her business out of downtown.
We will find our place. We will find the place that was designed for us, that feels safe, that allows us to grow, that allows us to have these tough conversations. It's a very real.
Now, the Downtown Raleigh Alliance shared this statement with WRAL saying, in part, any reports of harassment or violence are disheartening and have no place in our community. We are committed to continuing the work to make downtown safer, more inclusive, and more welcoming to all people. Now, Raleigh police say they are aware of the social media posts from the owner and from the store here, but they say they have not had any reports. None of those calls, none of those incidents were reported to police. They encourage anyone, any business owners who experience harassment or violence of any kind like that or any threats to report it. Liberation Station here, meanwhile, will close April 13th.
Matt Tallhelm, live in Raleigh. Thank you, Matt.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so April 13th was their last day, and of course we're now April 15th, and but we're going to go into a little bit of detail, a little bit more detail as to what was going on here, and take a little bit deeper look. All right, so of course this is North Carolina. The first Black-owned children's bookstore in Raleigh is changing locations now. there's a little bit of play with the words here. There's one saying they're supposed to be closing down due to threats, and then changing locations. And then you've seen Miss Victoria, I think her name is Miss Victoria Scott Miller. She says, eventually we're going to find the right spot. And they were supposed to be revitalizing the area, and this is tolerated. But we're going to look into it a little bit deeper right now and get a little bit more details as to what was taking place. All right. So yeah, so in North Carolina, the Liberation Station Bookstore, the first black-owned children's bookstore in North Carolina, is closing and claims it will reopen elsewhere after store officials said they have been receiving threats less than a year from when it opened in Raleigh, North Carolina. All right. So store owner Victoria Scott Miller, she said on Facebook that they have faced numerous threats since September. Scott Miller said some threats were, they brushed off some of the threats, while others included disturbing phone calls which detailed what their son, Langston, was wearing when he was in the store by himself. All right. So in response, we've been strategizing within our means to avoid being targeted. This has involved frequently changing our operating hours, generating content after hours, and taking turns between my husband and me to oversee the store. Despite the challenges, our bookstore has brought immense joy, and we've been determined not to become another headline of controversy. We've worked tirelessly to create a safe space, not just for our community, but for our own family as well. All right. So the Raleigh Police Department said on Tuesday, this was last week, if I'm not mistaken, they are aware of the social media posts, as you've seen in the video, related to the Liberation Station, but received no calls for service related to any harassment or threats at the store. Liberation Station Bookstore opened last year in downtown Raleigh. Scott Miller told a news source, a big inspiration for opening her bookstore was to be an advocate for her two boys and also give back to the community as well. The police also said that they want to hear from businesses about any problems like those mentioned by Scott Miller. The Raleigh Police Department encourages our community to contact us for any harassment as threats being made to them. All right. Their business or their customers. Police added in a statement, the safety and well-being of our business owners and visitors to our downtown area is a priority, and we have worked closely with our stakeholders to deter and prevent crime and disorder in our downtown business core. The bookstore released information about their plans. Over the next few weeks, we will remain operational until Saturday, April the 13th, which is already passed and gone. And afterwards, we will begin our move forward. Any remaining inventory will be donated to literacy nonprofits throughout the Triangle. Collectively, we will go back to the drawing board and reassess and redefine what we will need in our next location, Scott Miller said to a news source. We want to thank everyone for the calls and messages of encouragement. All right. So there you have it with that. This kind of makes me think and wonder if this was a tactic to actually have her removed so somebody else can get that particular spot. It must have been a pretty prime location for her to have her store. And if anything, I could tell them one of the things would be for this family and other businesses is to make your reports. I don't know what type of police department this Raleigh Police Department is in North Carolina. I don't know what the history is as far as their protection of Black Americans and Black American businesses. and their history with interactions with Black Americans. But I would definitely tell them as advice, and anybody else, doesn't matter what state you're in, is that make your reports, document the stuff on paper, so that in the event that you have to actually terminate somebody, if you will, all right, unalive somebody, if you get my drift, you already have documentation saying, hey, look, I'm receiving these threats. They're talking about, they know what my kids are wearing in the store. So they're really paying attention, and they actually tell them what their kids were wearing in the store. They told her what the kids was wearing. So somebody's paying attention for sure, right? And so you definitely need to report anything like that. Reports of any type of threats, people calling and hanging up, calling and hanging up, calling and hanging up, people being more detailed as what activities are going on in your business. So you have a paper trail, and if nothing is getting done, or the police department doesn't send somebody out to maybe come up with a plan with you, and you have to come up with your own plans, which I still say come up with your own plans as well. You could take some advice from them, but always have your own detailed plans, because nobody's going to know your exact plans. So it'd be harder for them to try something on you. Have your own security plans, all right? But take some advisement from whoever they send out. And if they don't, you have your own plans. You have a paper trail showing that this is going on. And then you got to do what you got to do. At least you took that first step of saying, hey, look, I reported this. Somebody came in, they tried to hurt us. We had to do what we have to do. All right. I'm not sure what their gun laws or their policies are with, if they don't have the castle doctrine, or the shoot and retreat rule and stuff like that, or the stand your ground. I don't know if they have those particular laws in place in North Carolina or something similar. So that's something you also got to be aware of, regardless of what state you're in, and your business. All right. So yeah. So also, I will give this bit of advice, since it's a general thing, but you can detail it to your own liking. That way, nobody can actually plan something on you. But what you should do, if anybody gets a hold of this and shares this video out, and it gets to, or you share it with Victoria Scott Miller, sit down or go around your business, sit down with your husband, maybe sit down with some other family members, and do what is called the what if model. Sit down and write all the what ifs that could occur in your business, all right? In regards to having those threats on the phone, what if I receive these type of threats on the phone? Like, if it could be similar to what happened before. What if I get a threatening phone call in the form of people telling us they know what we're wearing, or they know where, that you're walking to the back, anything like that? Write down all the what ifs that could happen. What if somebody comes in and does this? What if somebody comes and does that? And then do anticipate. It's kind of a anticipate and mitigate as well, combined with what if. All right. So anticipate some things and come up with some what ifs. If you can't anticipate anything, come up with a lot of what ifs, and then try to find at least 3 different ways you can deal with those situations. All right. Also, what you should do is, if you have the funds to do it, maybe hire a police officer that could come off duty at maybe certain hours of the day. It doesn't have to be the whole time you're open and close, but maybe it's at peak times. Maybe it's during when it gets dark and you got to close up. Maybe from a certain time to that closing time might be the best time. If you can do that, that's another idea. All right. So I'm just throwing those out at you, and anybody gets a hold of Victoria, you might want to pass on this video to her. All right. And anybody else who runs a business, here's your bit of advice when it comes to personal security. All right. So you guys let us know what you think about this, man. It's real unfortunate that this happened, but I think she'll bounce back, and she'll get back on her feet, and she'll get another location so she can open up a bookstore and be an example for her sons. All right. So we appreciate y'all. This is What's the 411 News, and we out of here. Peace. Welcome back to What's the 411 News, where we bring you news observation, interpretation, and news commentary from an FBA and BGR perspective. Let's get it.